There are certain things your body can do right now that you probably don't think very much about, like getting up from the floor, carrying your groceries into the house, reaching into the back seat of your car, walking up a flight of stairs, catching yourself when you trip, getting down on your knees, and then also getting yourself back up. You don't think about these things right now because you can still do them. And I get it. Life is busy. There are careers and families and relationships and responsibilities. There are errands to run, meals to make, people who need you, places you need to be. And when your body feels good, when it does what you ask it to do without much thought at all, we don't spend a lot of time appreciating the individual abilities that make all of that possible. Because honestly, most of them, they don't seem particularly spectacular, right? You carried the groceries into the house, you got up from the floor, you climbed the stairs, you reached into the back seat, you caught yourself when you stumbled over something somebody left in the middle of the floor, until they become difficult. And I know this firsthand. So I actually tell this story in the Everyday Athlete Field Guide because it was one of those moments when my own body got my attention. I was doing laundry, nothing exciting, nothing athletic, just laundry. I squatted down in front of the dryer like I had done a bazillion times before. And when I loaded my arms with laundry, and when I went to stand back up, I couldn't. I wasn't injured, nothing hurt. There wasn't some dramatic pop or pull. I was just stuck. And I remember having my arms full of laundry, realizing this wasn't going quite according to plan. Having to put some of the laundry back, and then using the dryer door to help myself up. And there may have been a grunt involved. Okay, there was definitely a grunt involved. And eventually I got myself back up, but I remember thinking, what in the world was that? Because squatting down in front of the dryer wasn't something I considered an actual ability. It was just something I did until suddenly it wasn't something I did. And that is what I mean when I talk about maintaining before you have to reclaim. Sometimes we don't recognize how valuable an ability is until our body suddenly reminds us that it isn't guaranteed. That experience didn't mean there was something terribly wrong with me. It meant there was something I needed to pay attention to. And that's exactly why I want us to start paying attention to these abilities before we lose them. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when it comes to aging well is waiting until we've lost an ability before we decide that that ability was important after all. We wait until our balance becomes shaky before we work on our balance. We wait until getting off the floor becomes difficult before we practice getting off the floor. We wait until we've lost strength before we decide we need to get stronger. We wait until our joints stop moving well before we start thinking about mobility. And then we find ourselves trying to reclaim something we could have been maintaining all along. So in my last video, we talked about the fact that your body is always adapting, for better or worse. Your body responds to what you repeatedly ask it to do. But there's another side of that conversation that I think is incredibly important. Your body doesn't maintain abilities simply because you might want to use them again someday. If you never challenge your balance, your body doesn't have any reason to maintain excellent balance. If you stop getting down onto the floor, eventually getting down there, and especially getting back up, can become harder. If you don't regularly ask your muscles to produce meaningful force, Your body has no reason to maintain more strength than your current life demands. And this is where I think we need to change the conversation about aging, because the goal isn't to desperately chase everything we've already lost or that we're afraid of losing. The goal is to recognize what's worth protecting while we still have it. I've spent most of my professional life on what I've always called the prevention and maintenance side of healthcare. I went to nursing school. I learned a tremendous amount there. But ultimately, I realized this wasn't the place for me. I was much more interested in what happens before someone reaches the point where something has gone terribly wrong. What can we support? What can we strengthen? What can we preserve? What can we teach people about their bodies now that might help them continue doing the things they love later? That philosophy has shaped the way I've taught movement for more than 20 years. And I want to be sure to be really clear here. Maintenance does not mean the prevention of aging. You're going to age. So am I. Our bodies are going to change. Things will happen that we cannot control. Illness happens, injuries happen, hormones change. Thank you very much, menopause. Genetics matter. Life happens. Taking care of yourself doesn't buy you some magical exemption from being human. But the condition in which you arrive at those challenges, now that matters. There is an enormous difference between trying to rebuild strength after you've lost a significant amount of it and continuing to give your body reasons to maintain strength along the way. There's a difference between trying to restore balance after you become afraid of falling and continuing to challenge your balance while you're still very confident on your feet. There's a difference between suddenly trying to regain the ability to get off the floor and simply never stopping getting on the floor. That's what I mean when I say maintain before you have to reclaim. And here's where I think people sometimes get movement completely backwards. We think we're exercising to be good at that exercise. We're actually not. It doesn't really matter if you become exceptionally good at squats because the world desperately needs more talented squatters, right? What matters is whether or not you can stand up from a seated position with a certain sense of ease when you're 80. It doesn't matter if you can balance on one leg because standing on one leg is a really impressive feat to accomplish. What matters is whether your body can respond quickly when you step off a curb that you didn't see. It doesn't matter whether you can deadlift because deadlifting makes you a superior human being. What matters is whether you can pick something up heavy from the floor without hurting your shoulders. The exercise itself isn't the point. Your life is the point. We're practicing abilities in controlled environments, so those abilities are available to us in uncontrolled environments. Because now you know where I unexpectedly needed a squat in front of my dryer. Not in the gym, not during a workout, while I was doing laundry. That's what we're actually training for. Loss of physical capacity doesn't always announce itself dramatically. Sometimes your world just gets a little bit smaller. You stop sitting on the floor because getting up isn't as easy as it used to be. You stop carrying the heavy bag and ask someone else to grab it. You avoid the stairs. You stop walking on uneven trails because you're not quite as confident about your footing anymore. You stop reaching for something because your shoulder doesn't move that way anymore. And each individual decision makes perfect sense. But over time, the things that you stop doing become things your body stops being prepared to do. And because your body is always adapting, it adapts to that too. That's why I don't want you to wait. until you can't do something to decide that that ability mattered. Look at your life right now. What do you love doing? What physical abilities make these things possible for you? And what are you doing to give your body a reason to maintain them? Now, before someone hears all of this and thinks I'm suggesting that healthy aging requires turning your entire life into one enormous exercise program, absolutely not. I want you to live your life. In fact, that's the entire point. Walk, carry things, get on the floor, reach, pull, push, lift something that's appropriately heavy, move in different directions, challenge your balance, use your joints throughout their ranges of motions that are available to you. Give your cardiovascular system a reason to work well. And yes, sometimes deliberately train the things everyday life no longer challenges enough. Because modern life is incredibly convenient. And convenience is wonderful until convenience quietly removes every reason your body had to maintain an ability that you still want. I certainly don't want this message to become, you better exercise or horrible things are going to happen to you. Nope. I don't want you moving because you're afraid of aging. I want you moving because there is a life that you want to continue participating in. Maybe you want to travel, garden, play with grandchildren, hike, carry your own suitcase, keep living independently, get down on the floor and play with your dog. Whatever matters to you, that is what we're training for. Your movement practice shouldn't be punishment for getting older. It should be an investment in continuing to participate in your own life. And maybe that's the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this. Don't look at your body only through the lens of what's wrong with it or what could go wrong with it. Look at what's still working. Look at what you can do, and then use it. Challenge it appropriately. Support it, practice it, maintain it. Because abilities don't become valuable the day we lose them. They were valuable all along. We just weren't paying enough attention. Your body is adapting every single day. Give it reasons to maintain the abilities that make your life possible. And if you're listening to all of this thinking, okay, Heather, but what exactly are the abilities I should be paying attention to? Well, this is exactly why I created the Everyday Athlete mini course. Because maintaining your physical abilities starts with knowing what they are. Inside the Everyday Athlete, we look at the essential movement abilities your body depends on in everyday life. The things that allow you to get up and down, carry, reach, balance, move confidently, and continue doing the things that matter to you. Not because you need another list of exercises you're supposed to be doing. Because I want you to understand what you're maintaining and why it matters. When you know what to pay attention to, you can start noticing where you're strong, where something might be changing, and where your body might need a little more attention before an ability disappears from your life. That's body literacy. And that's the whole idea behind the Everyday Athlete. You don't need to wait until something becomes difficult to decide it was important. So learn the abilities, pay attention to them, use them, work to maintain them. I'll put the link to the Everyday Athlete mini course below if you'd like to learn more. Because the goal isn't to stay young. The goal is to keep living fully in the body you're growing older in. Just remember, maintain before you have to reclaim.